I would like to hold until Michelle is here, so if she hasn't gotten here by 5 after, I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. But continue with whatever it is you're doing. Okay, let me call the meeting to order. We do have a quorum, and let's go ahead and go around quickly to do introductions. I'm Jim Moore, First Vice Chair and Member at Large. John?
John DeVoe, Woodland Park. Bruce Davis, City of Victor.
Tamara Bittner, City of Colorado
Orrin Childers, City at Large, or Citizen at Large.
Courtney Stone, Citizen at Large.
Julie Ott, League of Women Voters.
Ellen Hasse, Teller County.
Terry Hayes, Town of Monument.
And Ish, Green Mountain Falls.
Yeah.
Warren Rosenthal, Manitou Springs.
It's the little thing that looks like there's
there it
somebody
is.
There you go. Now it's on. Okay.
I think. No, there it is.
You got it.
Tim O'Donnell, Kono.
Okay, and let me, on behalf of all the rest of us, welcome both Bruce Davis, Mr. Davis from Victor, and Mr. Childers, who is our new member at large. And we welcome you. We'll work with Jessica to see if we can get some additional orientation information to you so that you can pick up a little faster than people like I did when I came on board 4 or 5, 6, however long ago it was. Okay, consent agenda items. I would like to call out for a moment the minutes. There are 2 typos that I've found. One is under item 4A on the second page, under the motion made by Jen Nellinger, but we have Mr. DeVoe's name misspelled. So that needs to be corrected with an X instead of an S. And then down, and since Ellen Hosse's here, under member announcements, the 3rd paragraph, I believe that's supposed to be US 24 as opposed to I-24. Okay. Okay. Are there any other changes or amendments to the minutes? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda with the amended minutes.
So moved.
Okay. That was Roy. I think it was Roy.
Yes.
Okay. Do we have a second? A second. Second? Okay. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Public comments. There's a chance now for any public comments. Seeing nobody rising to the fact, we will move to item 4A, our only action item. No. Wait until you get to talk when you're as a member. Okay? At the end, we have member announcements. All right. So, welcome back, Ken.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm Ken Prather, PPACG Transportation Planner. Last month, for those of you who were here and remember, we had a proposed amendment for the TIP, Transportation Improvement Program cost overrun policy, what we call the TIP flexible funding policy. FHWA had requested a change because the way that it's currently written, it sounds like money that from a canceled project could go directly to another project that an entity might have without returning to the regional pool that PPACG manages. So there is proposed language in that 4th bullet in your memo to change that. You wound up tabling the item because you had some questions you wanted answered and addressed. But you did agree, from what I remember, with FHWA's request, but you had some questions and concerns about some of the proposed changes that were initiated by TAC members. You asked members of the Transportation Advisory Committee to attend, provide better explanation than I was able to provide as to their feelings and intent. So Brian Ratuli, chair of the TAC, is here today to address your concerns and hopefully answer all your questions. I will just say that this is an action item, but as an action item, it is not all or nothing. If you agree with FHWA's request, you could amend, or you could recommend that portion be approved, and you could take different options on the others. So it does not have to be an item where every item is approved or every item is not approved.
Thanks, Ken. Good afternoon. Brian Vituli with the City of Colorado Springs Mountain Metropolitan Transit and chair of the Transportation Advisory Committee. So I was going to have 2 colleagues join me today, but you see how that worked out. They were going to be here, but I got a lot of good input from them, and we discussed this at our TAC meeting this month a couple weeks ago. Now, just to start, I just have just one statement to make. You know, back before we we amended the NOPE policy, and NOPE was not 1 penny extra. It was a very rigid process that did not allow for member governments to seek any other funds if their projects came up short. Once we went through the TIP process and money was programmed to our projects, not 1 penny extra of money was to go to that project. And sometimes, most of the times that worked, other times it didn't. And those were dealt with on a case-by-case basis, usually at the board level. But the attempt to kind of relook at the NOPE policy was to identify a really good process, so if we ever did get into an issue where we had a cost overrun and we needed more money, there was a methodology to follow. And we think we got that pretty well with the way that these bullets outline the process if we have cost overruns. It's a way to add some flexibility into what once was a rigid process. And it's worked really pretty well. We address this quarterly, and Mountain Metro, we were able to get some funds that were turned back in and apply those to a project that we need to build. And the cost overrun issue was something that we dealt with occasionally, but it seems like once the economy started to improve, 2C passed. There are an awful lot of projects out there wanting to be built, and an awful lot of contractors wanting that work. And a lot of times these contractors had a choice as to what projects to bid on. And so the costs would come in higher, materials cost more. And when we're asked to, provide a project budget, 4 or 5 years prior, it's kind of a guesstimate. We do the best we can, but we can't predict what's going to happen. So we got into these issues of many projects not having enough money to make them complete. So, we had a couple CAC members on our NOPE policy review committee. Jen was one, and Jim, I believe you were there, and Kevin Walker was there every once in a while. So we had some involvement from the CAC, but we think we came up with a pretty good process, and up until the Federal Highway Administration asked us to kind of tweak this first bullet, and that's a very good comment. Something that we kind of somewhat take for granted, which we shouldn't, is that when a member of government is given money for a project, we tend to forget that it's money for the project and not our money. So if we cancel a project, we don't really have a right to keep that money to put on another project. So Federal Highways, comment here to make that a little bit more clear, that the money goes for the project and not to the entity, is a great one. And so that money goes back into the regional pool, and whatever member government has a cost overrun can apply for those projects. So we totally agree with that. So once this was opened up to address that comment, we took it upon ourselves to tweak this, third to the last sentence of this last paragraph, changing the word will to may. So, the sentence reads now, those funds will be allocated to projects based on their original score. So our intent there to change that to say those funds may be allocated to those projects based on the original score was to kind of be consistent with that flexibility, because if there is the next highest ranked project on that waiting list or that unfunded list, if it is a project that member government hasn't really made a high priority anymore, or if it's a really expensive project that they would have to backfill with local dollars, or there are no other alternative funding sources, that having that word say will kind of makes it very rigid again. So just giving some flexibility to say, leave it up to that member government that's next on that list, if they don't want that money, they can not accept it. And then it would just go down to the list to whatever project and whatever member of government wants that. So that was the intent from that one little word change. I hope I didn't make it more confusing, but I barely have it clear in my head right now, but that was the intent. And so, there's nothing backdoor nefarious going on there with us wanting more control over the dollars. It's just a way for us to kind of keep the intent of this overall change to go from a rigid process to something that's more flexible, that allows us to use the money that's given to us and to be able to actually build projects.
Just to clarify that one point, that's a staff action, isn't it, that proceeds out of that?
Well,
That's not TAC making that decision.
TAC brought up the suggestion to change will to may.
No, I understand.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is the permission of may applies to how the staff will respond when the funds are returned, correct?
It would be put into the process. Yeah,
Okay.
staff would, once this money is put back into this regional pool from a project that gets canceled and the money is returned to this regional pool, staff would then open it up to everybody, on this quarterly basis, saying, this project was canceled. It's up for everybody, and yeah, so it would just go into the process, but it would be initiated by staff.
If I can just jump into this to partly answer, I think your question, staff would make a proposal for the projects to be funded with the cost overruns using this methodology, but it would come back through the TAC and through the CAC for the recommendation and a board decision. It's not a staff decision.
Do many projects get returned now? Canceled, I mean?
Not really. We've had some issues with external issues with getting right-of-way, acquired and some project delays. So we've had some project delays, but I really can't remember when anybody's had to return money. Do you?
There was one project on West Fontanero that was canceled, but that was not because of cost overrun shortage of funds, I believe, but it was funded by the RTA, and so it was taken off the tip list.
Oh, because this is just federal, right?
This is
Federal
all these
highway?
projects, we're talking about the federal dollars.
Just federal, okay. Thank you. Should we turn that on?
Does anybody have anything else, especially the people who had the concerns last month when this was originally brought forward?
We've still got that
Tamara,
other-
I thought you did, so I just want to make sure that whoever had their issues gets those addressed, please.
Yeah, I wasn't so much concerned about the verbiage, but I just wanted to stress that I think I talk a lot, so first of all, I apologize for that. But I did want to reinforce that the cost overruns, like Brian said, it happens all the time, and especially engineers and, and city and they're trying to, and they're trying to estimate construction of a project several years in advance, and it's really difficult. And I also want to add one more thing. There's a new federal requirement for locating utilities, and that's a huge item that's coming up in CDOT is requiring all these cities and CDOT projects, any federal project, to locate utilities to a very accurate degree, so that when they dig up a road, the contractor knows where all the utilities are, because we've had some issues with X lines being impacted, and none of us really think of it too much, but there's tons of utilities. We have fiber, gas, electric, water, sanitary. They're all unfortunately going in on the right of way between sidewalk to sidewalk is where they are, and so federal government is mandating all federal funded projects, utilities must be located very actively. And so that's going to already add costs to all these projects that are already on their list. So I just want to stress what Brian is saying is that cost overrun is going to continue to happen and provide some kind of flexibility for our region to be able to do projects and finish a project by utilizing some changes in the wording of this. That I think would be very beneficial. I think it will benefit our community. So I wasn't complaining, but rather I had a strong opinion about it.
Thank you. Tim?
Yeah, I wanted to know what triggers the cost overrun. Is it when you run out of contingency for the project? Is it a certain percentage? Dollar, $1 million, 50 cents? I mean, what triggers it?
I'm sorry, I missed the questions.
What triggers the process for cost overrun submission? Is there a dollar amount or?
We have in the tip what has been estimated as the cost of the project, then both the local dollars and the federal dollars, and there's a required federal-local match rate. You can have more local dollars, but you can't ever run below the required local dollar match rate for whatever federal dollars you're using. When the local entity goes out to bid, and they open their bids for the cost of a project, you're getting current today cost. We've got a tip that was approved 2 years ago. Projects were submitted from a year before that. So those costs are at least 3 years old and for what we have in the tip. So one of the sources is all of a sudden you've got current cost estimates are higher. Somebody goes out and starts digging up a road and discovers there at the intersection there used to be a gas station, and we've got a buried gasoline tank that nobody realized was there. And so all of a sudden your cost increase for these unexpected contingencies, and that has to be paid for.
Yeah, no, I understand the why.
But there's no minimum.
There's
no
no minimum.
minimum 50 cents, 500,000,
Okay.
whatever. Partly it depends on how much money we have available. Last quarter we had no money. So unless other projects are canceled and there is money returned because there was some kind of a cost saving, we have no money for a cost overrun. But that's what we're doing. We're looking each quarter and say, do we have any cost savings over the last 3 months? Any unexpected money that's fallen from the sky? Project reconciliation. Do we have any project cost overruns? We set it up on a quarterly basis so that we wouldn't go 6 months or a year before we checked for cost overruns, because then somebody's project might be done. We wanted it open that everybody would have the opportunity so that your project needs it, and you knew it a month ago, and somebody else just discovered it yesterday. But we go through the process and announce it and say, okay, for this quarter, we've got this much money. Does anybody have a cost overrun?
Do they typically build in a contingency in the bid or not? Contractors?
They do.
Okay.
City of Colorado Springs, now this was years ago under different administration and different personnel, they had a 10% cost overage that they built into what they submitted to us as the cost of the project.
What percentage come in under bid?
I don't know. We don't have that tracking as to
I just wondered.
as to individual entity projects and their bidding process.
Courtney? I was one of the complainers last month. And it's truly not a lot, like, I agree with the intention of the policy, and I think having more flexibility is a good thing. What I struggled with was, the word switch from will be allocated based on their original score to may be allocated was just that I don't, especially it being a policy, the clarity about then how is it decided. I understand there is a process, but having that included within the policy that if it goes back onto the waiting list, it might be allocated based on their original score, on the interest of the municipalities. I mean, I guess I'm just kind of curious about the methodology that gets used for saying whatever staff recommendation comes back around. And I'm sure that it's there and valid, but it would be great to have spelled out. And the same, I think, if we're asking the question about, so does this then come back through the TAC and CAC and board for approval, would be wise to spell out in the policy just so it's clear that it goes through the whole process. And so I think the policy makes sense as far as intention, but I do think it would be helpful to spell out exactly how it is that we're then coming back with new recommendations. Because we will do it based on the original score, but it's clear and I mean, it's pretty objective. So I'm okay with subjectivity, but I'd love to hear what some of the criteria is for how you make your decisions.
Yeah, this is a very, if you want to look at it that way, it is a high-level document. For those who were involved in the discussions last year, you remember that, and I hesitate to go there, but we had a waiting list, and that's the projects that we're talking about, the projects on the waiting list, and leftover money would go to these projects based on their score. But even in that discussion that's not written out and identified here, an entity had the option of not accepting the money and still being eligible then the next quarter for some other money. Because if they took any money, that was their one shot. And if it wasn't very much and they wanted to gamble, the next quarter there'd be more money, they could decline it this time around and it would go to the second, third, sixth project, whatever. Maybe some other projects that are being funded by local funds or RTA funds or another federal project isn't completed yet, and they're not ready to do the next one until it's in the proper sequence. And so that's the type of things that interfere with just saying, okay, your project has 400 points, and by golly, you're going to do it, no questions asked. So I don't think there was an attempt to get down to the detail that you would like to see. But no federal funds are authorized to a project without going to the board. The board has said anything coming to them must come through its advisory committees.
To Courtney's question, because on a couple of the meetings that I attended, I remembered we tried to draw a line between the policy and the procedures. And I think my perception is how that ends up being approved is a procedure and not part of the policy. So I don't have the same concern that you have.
That's fair.
Can I add on to that before we take another question? Sure. All right. So Courtney, the way that I see this happening and agreeing with what Ken said that this and what Jim said that this was designed to be broad brush. There's no way that we could predict every experience that could happen here to kind of have a procedure for it. But, the idea was, the way I see this happening, if this change is accepted, is staff brings it to TAC, that's the starting point. We have the pleasure of being the first committee to meet during the month. So we get to deal with this first. But staff would bring to us, $800,000 of funds that were found from projects that got done quicker and less expensive. Finding the first project on that list that has the highest score. Manitou Springs, do you want this $800,000 for your, $4 million project? And they say, there's no way that we could get the local funds in the next 3 years to match that money, so no thank you. And then it would go down to the next entity, next project, and we'd just go down until there was a fit. So that's how I would see this playing out. And then TAC would make a recommendation on that, and then CAC would get their chance to see it, and then the board would get a chance to see it. So procedurally, I think it would work really well. But just having that flexibility for an entity to say, thank goodness that Will was changed to May, that we don't have to accept that money and be on the hook for this project. So that would be a huge bonus to us all, I think.
Yeah, and that context is good to have. I think when it was initially introduced last month, I mean, the impression can be that
Yeah. Right,
there wasn't as much process behind it.
right.
But
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Just one, and I think what Courtney says is true, is when I see a policy or a reg, because I do a lot with the government as far as the military right now, and it's very specific. This is more of a guideline. This is the way we're going to roll. So I see what you're saying, and then you develop a procedure from a guideline, and this gives you just enough element of fuzzy. You know, when it's a guideline, when somebody says this is a policy, it usually means this is the way, exact way we're going to do it. So just something to think about in the future.
If I might respond, John Leosatos announced last month that we will be initiating a complete new review of the TIP and long-range plan policies in the next few months. 1st of October, our new TIP manager will come on board, so we've got a new executive director, new transportation director, a new TIP manager, and so the future is not too far away. So we can address the issues of more details at the policy level, or do we want to keep it fuzzy? So that will be discussion.
Sometimes you do. Yes, Aubrey.
Maybe as part of a motion, we just recommend that we feel strongly that there be some clear procedural guidance to accompany the policy. Kind of finds compromise between the two.
I understand what you're saying. I'm not sure that that belongs as part of whether or not we concur with the general policy on how things are going to be handled. I think we need to understand that the staff does have a procedure and a process behind all of this that is partially guided by federal requirements as well. So unless we, for some reason, don't believe that staff has a process that they've been using, I think we're probably, that's a little bit more than what's required for this. Is that? I mean, I understand what you're saying, but I don't think it belongs as part of the motion with respect to the policy itself. My opinion.
You going to speak to the deletion?
The last.
Sure. Geez, I thought we were almost done.
I thought
we were almost there.
Brian just likes hearing himself speak.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, and the TAC also had a recommendation to delete that second to the last sentence of that last paragraph, the one that reads, if a project is canceled, it cannot go onto the waiting list. And that, I'm trying to remember. Well, sure, at least somebody to stall for me.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, John Leosatos, Transportation Director. If I remember correctly, Brian, that discussion was, hey, well, we'll go for the waiting list, and then there was a little bit of a discussion. I said, wait a minute, where is this waiting list? If it's not a published document, if it is not open and transparent to the public, then it doesn't exist. So it was one of those things, well, for now, because we are in the process of rewriting the policies and procedures, that for now, that should just go away. So I think that was part of that, is it is referencing something that does not exist. I think if you look at the TIP document, there is no part that says waiting list. So it references something that isn't there. That's what I remember from that meeting. But.
Yeah, and thanks for jogging my memory. But so I think there's a little bit of, we're referring to the same thing with different terms. I mean, there is a list of unfunded TIP projects that are prioritized. Whether you call that a waiting list or not.
The illustrative list.
Yeah, right. So that was kind of going along with what John said. That was our belief with that sentence didn't need to be in there. But, procedurally, assigning or giving an entity an opportunity for projects, would be based off of that unfunded prioritized list. So we felt it was an unnecessary sentence to have in there.
Does anybody have any concerns with that? Okay. And also, what? John, sorry.
The only, you have to satisfy the federal request that they had for this. This is how this started, correct?
This all started with Federal Highway Administration
Okay.
saying that we needed to,
What you have done is have solved that with the federal government.
Right.
What else are we going to do? I'm saying is, we all talked about it. You've explained it to us. You explained to us that anything federal's got to come back through us anyway. What else is there we have to do? Just a question.
Well,
Make a motion.
at this point, we need to make a motion to approve the changes or not. Go ahead.
I'd like to move that the committee forward to the board our recommendation that these amendments to the policy be approved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? And one thing, back to your point, Aubrey, the other reason I didn't feel that making any additional add-on with respect to procedures is we can't really dictate to staff how that is, handled.
Do you mind if I respond real quickly?
Absolutely.
I hear that, and we wouldn't necessarily be dictating any procedures. We would just be saying as a body that we believe procedures need to be sort of clearly defined. The reason I bring it up is I'm involved with some other policies that didn't come in and of themselves with any clear procedural guidance, and that's where things in the implementation of the policy got a little ugly because they are a little too subjective. And, a variety of different parties had different ideas of how it might play out. And so without that procedural guidance, sometimes the policy becomes null and void.
Understood. Okay. Is there any other discussion? All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you very much for that. Okay. Any information items not currently listed? Any member announcements? Yes.
Bruce Davis with the City of Victor. Maybe some of you guys are aware of it or not, but I don't know. Newmont Mining has put out a thing that they're going to start increasing their truck traffic from the CCB mine down through Highway 67 to 24 into Colorado Springs. Right now, they're currently running anywhere from 1 to 6 trucks a day. And they're saying that increase is going to be up to 20 trucks a day, because what they're doing, and I just got a tour of the mine last Saturday, is they're processing high-grade ore, and they're going to be moving it from the CCD to Elko, Nevada. So that's why the increase in traffic. So they put out sent a memo to the City of Victor and the City of Victor. I don't know who else got it, but they were asking for questions and comments on, because they were going to do a survey. Well, this survey is only going to include 8 people over I think a 2 or 3 day period, but it's, I've been involved in that kind of stuff before, and this is like, to me, it was kind of a sham, and they had to have it done before September 1st. And they just put this memo out a couple weeks ago. Well, I guess from what I understand, Ray DuBois, who is the city administrator at Cripple Creek, asked for this survey a year ago, in July of last year, and they're just now seem to be getting around to it. But it's just for all the communities along Highway 24, you're going to start seeing an increase in truck traffic. And these, I've seen the bins where they haul this, they call it cake. It's a dry process, well, they process the
Like
high-grade
powder,
ore, and they
yeah.
press it into these cakes, and they
Yeah.
put it in these big tubs, and they're carried on these big semis. So they're going to be running up and down the hill, and I guess they want to start running them pretty soon, if not already. So just make everybody aware of that, because there's going to be, obviously, traffic problems. I brought up the question of road maintenance and road wear and tear, and
Right.
accidents. What do they do in accidents? And then just but they haven't really done much on this survey. They're supposed to have it out, I believe, this weekend. Of course, that's Labor Day weekend, so I don't know where they're at on it. But
Are they going down to 25?
yeah, they're going down actually, they're coming into Colorado Springs, and these big bins, whatever they are with the cake, will be loaded on the trains and shipped to Elko, Nevada that way.
So they're going to run 67 to 24? Is that
24 into the railroad depot
Yeah,
here.
but they've got it, it'll be 67 to get to 24.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, they're
Not
running-
going to take Teller 1, they're going to take...
Oh, no, I didn't say that.
67, yeah.
67.
So that's going to increase incredibly.
Yeah, because they're running from Victor,
Right.
from the ball mill, down all the way into Colorado Springs, so.
Wow.
Maybe the price of gold will go down.
Where would you suggest that comments be registered, or if the survey is not
Well-
yet out?
Well, that was the problem. The deadline for submitting comments was the 22nd of August.
As a citizen of Teller County who reads the Planning Commission minutes, I know that when Newmont Mine went before the Planning Commission to ask for permission to do this, the rate of transfer of vehicles that they originally quoted was to build up to 1 per hour over a 24-hour period, and they would not run during inclement weather, and if the schools closed, they would close. If the pass would close, they would stop, et cetera. And when they were queried about emergency response plans for some accident, they had documented something at that time, but it doesn't sound like what you're talking about is a report of what was carried over from the original permissions. It sounds as if something is not quite lining up with what they asked for originally.
Yeah, they're looking for an amendment to their, I believe it's their permit, and that's why they had to get it done quickly. And but I just saw the memo that was sent to the city, and it was sent to the city of Victor and the city of Cripple Creek, so I don't know who else got it, and I didn't know anything about the county commissioners meeting.
So do you have any information on where people can voice their concerns that we could let folks know?
Yeah, let's see if I've got it here. You'd have to go through Lorna Shaw. She's their public affairs or public relations person. Yeah. I do have a phone number for her.
I'm sure she's going to love that.
Oh, yeah.
If you can get a hold of her, because right now she's been running back and forth between Elko, Nevada, and Cripple Creek and Victor. So. Apparently, the other woman used to do that job in Elko, just had a baby, so Lauren is running both offices.
Ken or John, do you know of any requirement with this kind of pickup in traffic, on truck traffic and stuff, any requirement for CDOT to know about this, or all of the governments that are along that route?
We'll take the awkward silence, Madam Chair, as that perhaps we do not.
I'm gathering.
Are you going to stand up and not say anything?
Again, John from CDOT is here, so he probably knows better than I. So, typically, a permit for some sort of operation would only be required if it's an oversized load or if the tonnage of their vehicle is beyond the rating of the bridges along the route.
The individual
The route.
vehicle. Okay.
So if again, they're either A, not needing any of those permits, or B, unaware that they need those permits, I am unaware of any requirement that they would have to check in with any other governmental agency, because the roads are free domain and anyone can use them as long as they're doing so legally.
Who holds the permit that they're working off of? The City of Victor?
No?
Teller County Board of Directors.
Okay.
Oh, really?
Yes. They're the single largest employer in Teller County, and Teller County, as with all counties in Colorado, if there's a mining operation within your county, even if it's not just on private land, it's on either some part permitted partially state or partially federal, the county itself has to approve, hence the appearance at the Planning Commission, which is a subset, a quasi-official body working for the county commissioners. More info that I know you didn't want at all.
Thank you,
That's
Ellen.
helpful.
John?
The only real problem is going to be 67. 24 can easily handle 2 trucks an hour. It's not like it's train. Okay. Compared to the problems we have of traffic right now out there, that's probably not going to make much of a difference. I can see coming through Victor, coming through some of those communities, but 24 can handle that. That shouldn't be a problem. It's a federal highway. And it's built to those standards.
And to be fair, John has a point, and to be fair, CDOT has graced our county with improvements on that section of 64 south of Divide into Cripple Creek and Victor in the last year and a half, and they greatly improved the ability to handle those curves at any sort of posted speed, including those trucks, which I believe are 18-wheelers, but they're specialized. They're special units for this particular transport. They're uniquely designed.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you, Bruce.
Okay.
Does anybody have anything else? Tim?
Tomorrow evening from 4 to 6, Kono is having an open house at their new location at 1506 North Hancock. You can get a chance to talk to some of the staff there and find out what we do. Give you a couple of examples. We were instrumental in writing legislation for VRBO, which is got a 3-3 through the Planning Commission, and now it's got to go to City Council anyway, so they didn't escape. And then we facilitate things like the Old North End's concerns about bike lanes or the parking situation with the new stadium that Colorado College is going to put in. We usually don't take sides on issues as much as facilitate the neighborhood and get them in contact with the right people and the right process in the government to, address their concerns. But anyway, you can find out more of who we are and what we do. Tomorrow evening, 1506 North Hancock. I think she sent out the notice to everybody.
She did.
Okay, good.
Thanks, Tim. Ann, did you have something?
Yes, I did. Can you hear me?
Oh, thank you. This just kind of came up in Green Mountain Falls. Our town manager, Jason Wells, was contacted by Andrew Gunning to say that they are beginning to update the regional water quality management plan that addresses water quality issues and the need for wastewater infrastructure in the Pikes Peak region across El Paso, Teller, and Park counties. They're hiring the consulting firm Brown and Caldwell to help coordinate the effort, and we're engaging with PPACG's Water Quality Management Committee in this process, which involves the experts that do this kind of thing. They're going to meet September 4th in the morning here, and probably again in October. They need to update their plan because it hasn't been done in a while. Please let me know if he wanted to know if Jason or someone could come. Well, it turns out I'm going to go.
Very good.
I have the time. I'm not an engineer, but I could go and listen, hopefully, because Woodland Park is the only one that have a wastewater treatment
In the
all
past.
through the mountains.
Until you get to Divide. Between Divide and Manitou Springs, there's only one, and it's Woodland Park.
Yeah, that's it. So, with the population and, more and more homes and so on, I'm going to go and, I'll at least listen, because Green Mountain Falls, we're in a pickle because, it's a 100-and-some-year-old community with more and more to handle, We have cesspools that are now illegal. If you sell your property, people have to put in septic tanks. They don't have the room for them. It's a big problem, not only for property owners, but also as a health issue, very much so. So anyway, Jason asked if I would have the time to go, and I said yes. Doesn't mean I'll keep going if I don't understand, but maybe someone else would come, from our town. So, thank you.
Thanks, Ann. Any other member announcements?
Oh, I just the biggest event that we have in Fountain is the Fountain Fall Festival, and that is on Labor Day, so we're inviting everybody. There's a big parade, and then at Metcalf Park, then they have, a regular festival. So, just thought I'd announce it.
Thank you. Excellent. Yes, John.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, perhaps I didn't say something fast enough when you were under information items, but John from CDOT is here, and the I-25 construction starts tomorrow with the groundbreaking, and I know this has been a project the committee's been interested in. So to stick with Robert's rules, I think you as the chair can go back to item 5, or under item 6, someone could say, I'd like to announce that the I-25 is starting tomorrow, and could John tell us more about it? So however you want to handle it, but I think that way we're legal, and that way you would get that update, if in fact that's an update that you would like.
Yes.
I know the committee would love to hear about an update on the I-25 GAP project, please. John.
I brought my friend from CDOT.
Yay!
Thanks so much. I basically just came down to visit and listen in. I know it's, there's not zero controversial elements in the project, although the overall project is certainly something I think everybody would love to see. So yes, we have our groundbreaking tomorrow. I will admit to you some serious nervousness of the fact that I'm checking my emails to see when our controller actually signs the contract. But no, we are all lines go, and certainly beginning next week, you're going to see even more substantial construction kicking off. The signing and stuff is already kind of out there. And it is the first package of the construction, the most substantial, the real road work is just north of the Toma Road exit. Between there and Castle Rock. But there will be activity through the entire 18-mile corridor with putting in conduit for ITS infrastructure and all that. So there's going to be activity, and it's going to be the next 3 years. It's just going to expand and expand. We are going to have 2 lanes open, throughout all daytime hours. So really, the amount of laneage available during the day is not going to change. The shoulders will be a little bit more narrow even than they are today. The speed limit will be down to 65 miles per hour through the construction zone. Frontage roads will get 45 miles per hour. But we're really excited, to get this thing under construction. I think hopefully us on the CDOT side have delivered in about faster than almost any other project that's been in this. And thanks to groups like PPACG and DRCOG, for doing all the actions necessary to get it into the TIP and the STIP, or for us the STIP, the long-range plans, all those things that had to happen. And one thing that I know it was published and it may not have reached you, but since the tolling aspect of it, the express lane aspect of it is the controversial aspect, our high-performance transportation enterprise did publish the traffic and revenue study, which, of course, it is a study. It doesn't guarantee anything. The final toll rates and stuff like that would be published would be approved by the board, the HPT board and all, and that's through a public process. That really won't happen for a few years, right? We'll get the lanes opened up. We'll even test the operations by allowing people to ride free in the lanes and stuff like that, and then that's when final decisions will be made. But one thing that came out of that study is a really solid prediction that the opening day, even in the peak time periods of the day, will be about $2.25 to transit the entire corridor. So, I think there's certainly some people out there who feel that that's probably still too much, but certainly a lot of people have thought, this is going to be $10, this is going to be $20, this is going to be, and that's exceedingly unlikely, as evidenced by the report. And I know some people in this room, would certainly like to see it turned off overnight. And the report definitely doesn't say that, but the report is a consultant putting out a base recommendation. The board certainly has that as a possibility. It could go to zero toll at certain times of the day. That would be an HPT decision, but, I mean, certainly we're looking at a very minimal type of rate to get that right usage of that lane. And, of course, HOV 3+ being free to use, motorcycles, the general operations that we do on our express lanes throughout the state.
In the evening, when would it go to one lane? At what time in the evening may the traffic go to one lane? You were saying during the day it's going to be
During
2 lanes.
construction here, it's, I'll have to look to see the exact time. I believe it's 7 or 8, it might be 9 o'clock, but I believe it might be 8 p.m. But that's going to be dependent. I mean, we're going to modify that based on traffic conditions, too. I mean, it's going to be highly dependent, we're not going to cause major backups at 6 p.m. I believe it's 8 or 9 p.m. is the...
After Broncos games, I think you should make sure.
No, we're going to be we're going to be highly tied in. I mean,
Right.
weekend events and stuff. And, while you're mentioning Broncos games, I want to point out that part of the traffic demand management things that CDOT is promoting with this is enhanced, there's going to be additional bus services out of Colorado Springs and out of Monument for Broncos games, Mustang service.
Right.
So that's going to be increased, so we can help keep cars off the road and give people an option too during the construction time period. But yeah, keeping lane closures. When I say evening lane closures, I mean that doesn't mean but the Broncos game day we can do it. No, I mean we'll make sure on days like that there are not those types of closures.
Where is the ground?
It's going to be County Line Road on the
County
northeast
Line.
corner. There, County Line Palmer Divide Road.
Right,
Did you get a thank you note from the Colorado Springs Airport?
No, but I welcome thank you notes because that's not something that I've gotten a lot of as I toured El Paso County. Which, by the way, I mean I'm a resident of El Paso County. I'm a Monument resident here, and I was asked back in December, really in October, they actually asked me to kind of move back up to Region 1 temporarily, but I'm coming back to Region 2. In 2015, I started as an RE down here finally, and I'm definitely coming back.
Okay, awesome. Does anybody have any other questions they'd like to ask Sean?
So is the toll fee variable throughout, depending on
So-
the congestion?
So absolutely it is. I mean, the way HPT operates all of our facilities, it's time of day. So there's also, as technology advances, there's the look to do what they call dynamic tolling, which had actually, use sensors and stuff like that to adjust almost minute by minute. That technology is not really there or being implemented. I mean, it's there kind of nationwide. You could find examples of it, but within the state of Colorado, we're not quite there yet. But time of day pricing is definitely the case. Although if you're a careful reader and if you go look on HPTs, it was published in their board, their most recent board minutes and meeting agenda. I believe it's the 18th was the date. So if you look on our website, you'll find that. If you read carefully on that report, you'll see though that that traffic and revenue study is recommending just $225 for the whole trip. It's 2 segments actually, right? It's one segment is $1.05 and the other segment's $1.20 with Larkspur being kind of in the middle. But that would show, if you read that report, it shows it all day. It's not because there isn't the intent to do time of day pricing or anything like that. It's just because that's the kind of baseline recommendation. 15 cents per mile on opening day will be the lowest per mile rate in the country of any express lane is anticipated. So they kind of baselined it there.
Will there be like a monthly pass for the people that commute and do that every day?
Well, there certainly won't be a monthly pass.
I mean, to keep the cost down,
What's that?
to get the cost lower.
Well, absolutely. So all of our facilities use the E470 transponder, the express toll. So that's a statewide, so that we don't have multiple different transponders and stuff like that. So yes, it's not a free pass. But yes, it's that pass thing which gets you the lower, not having to pay the license plate toll rate, which is.
Between the 95, we'll give you a refund.
Interesting concept. Okay.
I'm all for it, but we'll see. We'll see how that. I mean, I can't make any promise. That's the HPT board's got to do that. So.
Does anybody have anything else? Thank you very much for that.
Thanks much.
We appreciate it. Okay. let's see, I apologize for my tardiness. Evidently, there were nails spilled on I-25, so they had a lane shut down, so.
Cartoon, right?
Yeah. Welcome
A coyote
to,
was seen doing it.
exactly. I wonder where the Roadrunner was. Welcome to Bruce and Orrin, our new members. It's nice to have you, thank you. Items for the next CAC meeting. It is just about 4 months left in the year, which means it's time to start thinking about officer positions for 2019. So I'd like all of you to start thinking about what position you would like to hold next year. Please let me, Jim, Sharon know if you're interested in any of those positions, or you can let the staff know, Jessica and those folks. We'll also need a committee for the officer positions. So if there's anybody who's interested in volunteering to be on that, let me know. But we'll need to get that set up here pretty quick so that we don't run into January before we're trying to get that squared away. Does anybody have any questions on that?
We'll let you know and then vote on it next meeting.
No, we're not going to vote on it next meeting. We'll probably be October meeting. I would like to have the vote in October.
Oh, so we don't have to vote on the committee.
No, I guess we probably do need to vote on the committee. Yes, thank you, Courtney. So yes, please let me know if you'd like to be on the committee before next meeting so that we can get that on the agenda and have that vote. And if you're interested in being one of the officers for 2019, let me know as soon as possible, or let the staff know so that we can get your name on the list for that. All right, does anybody have anything else they'd like to see at the next CAC meeting? Okay.
I'm sorry, could
Sorry,
we
Ellen.
clarify, could we work as early as September, but no later than October on holiday schedules if we're going to be adjusting meeting dates?
That's a great idea. I will work with staff on that. Thank you, Ellen.
You're welcome.
Anything else for the next CAC meeting? Meeting schedule is in your packet. Does anybody have anything else at all from the peanut gallery? No? Yes, maybe? All right.
Look at you, Ken.
No, actually, I wasn't, John. Meeting adjourned. Thank you all very much.
Well done. Welcome, Bruce. Welcome, Ellen.
So I mentioned to Andy that you were going to be on that committee. Good to see you. Yeah. Hi. So you're going to join us on the